What about your training? How many times a week are you training at the moment?
At the moment, 4 times a week in the gym. And then on the off days, trying to get in, between sort of 6 and 8 thousand steps at least, depending on how the
Yep.
day goes. Worked quite well. I've come to the end of this particular mesocycle this week, so I'm currently pushing every set to failure, which is fun, but also very difficult. It's actually something I recommend for a lot of people at least once every sort of 6 to 8 weeks, is to push yourself to failure, because there are some exercises where I was really adequately rating my amount of reps in reserve, right? How many reps I had left in the tank. I was like, last week I was trying to leave 2 in the tank. This week I'm basically going to failure, and I pretty much got 2 more than I did last week. I was like, all right, I was accurate with that, with that particular assessment. Some of them, I was like, I had 5 reps left in the tank. I had 5 reps. I was easily reps left in the tank, but just because of the soreness of some of the muscles, it was like, I feel like maybe this is coming close to it. But the soreness didn't actually indicate that anywhere near failure. It was just getting a really good pump. So something like machine
Yeah.
flyers, I was able to pump out like 5 more than I did the week before, and I was like, shit, it's a real eye opener if every now and again you do push yourself to failure. Just, it's not something that I recommend all the time, but just to get a gauge of how much intensity are you putting in. That's probably the biggest thing for me, has been training intensity, and really looking at the gym as like, look, I didn't something that Dr. Mike from RP says. It's like, I didn't come here to not work hard. Like, I didn't come here to avoid the pain and the stretch and the sort of the push, right? I didn't come to the gym to for an easy time. That wasn't what I was here for. So I was like, all right, coming in with more of that mentality. Whereas I feel like when you're on a cut, you can really get away with not necessarily phoning it in, but you can get away with more subpar sessions than when you're gaining mass. Because I'm like, well, if I don't put it to use, where the fuck are these calories going to go? To my ass,
Yeah.
not in a good way.
Mate, 100%. I think what you're saying there is to failure is like, I'll program like and just call it like an AMRAP set, right? So it's like as
Yeah.
many reps as possible. So what you'll see, and even it's interesting when I'll coach people in person and they'll lift weights for like, 3 sets or 4 sets. And on the 5th set, I'm like, all right, guys. And I've told them we want to be 2 reps in reserve. And they're saying, yep, this is my 2 reps in reserve. On the 5th set, I give them an AMRAP set and say we're doing a set of 12. All of a sudden, on the 5th set, they're doing a set of 20 or 22. I was like, guys, you are so far away from 2 reps in reserve in those other 4 sets. You're not getting the stimulus required that we're looking for that lean muscle growth, because we want to be within that, max 3 reps in reserve, 2 reps from failure, or 1 rep from failure in most of our sets, in most of our working sets. And I think that's something that I see a lot of people not focus on in a gym. Like you said, phoning it in, but sometimes they're just not aware. They're just not aware their personal capabilities until someone says, like, if I had a gun to your head, could you pump out another 3 reps? Could you pump out another 5 reps? And then all of a sudden they do. And it's like, man, you had that in you all along. You're not lifting at the intensity you should be, right? You're like 7 reps from reserve right now. That's not an intensity that's going to build that lean muscle mass. So then all of a sudden it recalibrates. It's like, dude, like your first 4 sets shouldn't have been at, 100 kilos, should have been at like 115. Okay. And that's actually your 2 reps in reserve. And like you're 15%, or you're lifting 15% less than what you should be. And for anyone out there who's currently going through a program, just pick the last set of some of your exercises and just test out an AMRAP, right? And just go, okay, was I going too easy on my first couple of sets? And then next week, your new working weight. I think it's just something for everyone to understand.
Yeah, 100%. There's a point you'll understand. You'll start to get a better gauge for when your reps in reserve. Like for me, in a compound movement, I know pretty well when my reps, when I'm sort of close to failure, right? Like things start really slowing down, especially things like a chest press. I did a bit of chest today. When it starts really slowing down, like for bench press, I didn't go to complete failure, because that's a risky exercise to do complete failure on, unless you want to embarrass yourself and have to slide the weights off each side, do the shuffle. But I managed, I think it was like 11 at 65 for me. It was like halfway through the session, and the last one basically was like a pause halfway through, and just I had to really grind it out. As soon as your rep speed starts to slow, that's when you're in that sort of 4-3-2 rep in reserve category. And then it's also considering, for me as well, technical failure. So making sure that when you are going to failure, it's not complete muscular, my arms are going to fucking fall off, but I'm just going to like yeet this weight up and call that a rep, right? That's not a rep. What I did, especially for me with pull-ups, I'm trying to get better at pull-ups because I've got really long arms and I suck at them. So I did, I managed to do 8, and then I managed to do 6, and the 6 was like barely got my chin sort of to the bar, which was like my minimum, and it was down to full extension. And then I was like, I'm not going to count these 2, but in order for me to get that little bit beyond, I'm going to jump up and then do some nice slow negatives just to get that little bit of extra stimulation from that. But that 6, that's what I would call technical failure. I couldn't do another rep with clean technique. And you know, there's something to be said for like grinding something out and pushing it out. And yeah, maybe the technique fails a little bit, but not for cheapening your range of motion. Like I wouldn't go do another set of bench press by only go halfway down and count that as a rep, right? So technical failure, you do the full rep with good technique. As soon as your technique breaks down and you can't lift it with that good technique anymore, that's your failure, right? So don't go out there squatting until your knees collapse, right? As soon as you can't use good technique and go all the way down, and you know, that's, yeah, stop there.